What is up, coaches? Matt here with another training. So, today we're going to be talking about mini market research and how you can use this to generate a ton of leads. Now, think back. Maybe this is thinking back a couple days, but think back to where you got your first 1 to 5 clients from when you started the Build Workshop. Chances are good that you got your first clients because they were market research participants. Now, the thing is, it probably took you maybe a week to 10 days to get maybe 5 to 10 market research calls booked in and done because you were asking for 45 minutes to an hour of their time. And the people who you got onto the market research, you probably already had some degree of authority or a pre-existing relationship with them. So they were happy to get onto that longer call with you. But how do we now take that market research process, which allowed you to generate clients, and put it on repeat so that you can continue to not only generate clients, but generate ideas for your content, generate ideas for lead magnets that you can run micro commitment posts to, and also generate new ideas for your offer. And what I've come up with is the mini market research process, which I'm going to outline for you right now. So just to give you a little overview, the way that mini market research works is you're essentially going to be running about maybe a 15 to 20 minute triage call that has a market research angle to it. And the way that you're going to find prospects to do it, ideally, is you're going to do a buzz machine post. So if you don't know what a buzz machine is, that's what we got in social compounding. It's essentially just asking an engagement question, a question that either A, makes the people who answer feel like they were smart for contributing their 2 cents, and B, it's a question that's not so deeply vulnerable that people are going to feel weird about answering it in public. So it's just a basic engagement question, something like, what's the weirdest diet you've ever tried to improve your performance, as you see down here. So we ask a buzz machine. It's great to put the Facebook backgrounds on those. You can do that on Instagram as well. But you ask a buzz machine something that, 1, your ideal client would answer, so it kind of filters them. And then 2, like I said before, it's not weird for them to answer, and maybe it makes them feel smart for answering. So we get that post going. And then from there, we're going to engage with them and friend request them. We can move that to Messenger. And from there, we get on to the mini market research call, the triage call. You pre-frame it up, ask them 5 questions. Then you can pitch them to a longer call. And from there, you follow up with whatever you promised and book in the call. So I'll outline that process exactly here. So step 1 is you create that buzz machine post in a group or on your wall. From there, essentially, what's going to happen is people are going to reply. You want to, in the comments, so don't just go straight to DMs here, in the comments, engage back with people in a way that's going to get them to engage back with you. So for example, if you say, I've got some examples here. When is the last time you ate a meal while multitasking? What else were you doing? And somebody goes, just this morning, I was eating breakfast while driving to work, in the comments. Then you should comment back, been there. Is that an every morning occurrence for you or just this morning? And question marks have to be in your reply because that will get them to reply back if they're genuinely engaged with the conversation. If they're not engaged with the conversation here, probably not going to want to engage with you in Messenger. They'll have their defenses already put up. So if they engage back, that's when we move to Messenger. Send them a message and ask 2 discovery questions to see whether or not you might be able to move it to a mini market research. So you might reach out to them. Hey, my notifications are blowing up from that post about distracted eating, the buzz machine. Just wanted to move our conversation about distracted eating here. You don't have to say distracted eating twice, but just wanted to move our conversation here so I don't miss your replies. Hit send, and then ask them if you can ask 2 questions about why they've been distracted with eating for breakfast or whatever your topic of your post was. And then they're going to either say no, they'll ghost you, or they'll say yeah, or sure, or why. And so if it's affirmative from there, you just want to be like, hey, and you have to make this decision ahead of time. Do you want to put together a guide based off of what you're going to learn, or do you want to change your offer? You should actually do these things. So you might say something like, hey, I'm putting together a guide about distracted eating and curious. Have you ever tried to find time to slow down with breakfast? Something like that that relates to it. Asks discovery questions. Discovery is where they're at, where they want to go, and what is standing in the way. So you want to ask at least 2 questions that discover at least 2 parts of that. And then based off of their answers, you should know whether or not they might be a good prospect. And that's the thing, is we don't want to just ask anybody, any old person, to get on the mini market research. We want to be smart with our time. So if the person doesn't seem like they could be a good client for you, then just ask the questions and be like, cool, would you like to see this guide when it comes out? I appreciate your feedback. Or maybe ask one more question if the 2 don't get you to a point where you know whether or not, hey, I want to offer a call, or, ooh, I definitely shouldn't offer a call. But if you get to the point where you're like, okay, this person could be interested in what I have to offer, and they are engaging with my questions, then from there you can offer a mini market research call. So after they answer the questions, you can be like, hey, thanks for that feedback. This is really important how you frame this. If I sent you over a copy of the guide, would you have 10 to 15 minutes to hop on a call with me? It's, if I do this for you, would you be able to do this for me? And that's the way that you want to frame getting on the call. All right, so that's going to be really important. Do not skip that step. And if they say yes, book them in for a call. If they say no, just be like, hey, no worries. You know, in this case, they're already distracted eating. Sounds like you're quite busy. Would you be interested in that guide when it's ready? Because then you can reach out, give them the guide, open that conversation back up like it's a micro commitment post. And then from there, you can click on this. This is the script for the mini market research. I'll pull it up now so we can go over the script. So when you get on the call, the frame of this call is to ask them questions. That way you can either update your offer for real, or get some intel for some good content, or create a new resource and then send them that resource, or share your offer with them when it's ready. So your goal here is you want to qualify them, because ultimately you're potentially going to offer a sales call to them. You also want to gather some market research and intel to see how you might be able to help them. It's just like a triage call, only the frame is just slightly different. So you really want to keep it short on the call. Actually, these don't apply. I'm just going to delete these right now. This is from the triage call script. There you go. So 1 minute of rapport. Just like, hey, thanks for getting on the call. Where are you calling in from? Cool. You know, match their energy. That's part of rapport. If they're a super happy-go-lucky person, be happy-go-lucky in the beginning. If they're really droll and slow-talking like Eeyore, be droll and slow-talking like Eeyore. That's a big part of rapport versus just endless small talk. And less than 1 minute, just get into it, put them at ease, and then with a pre-frame, be like, cool. So, you know, Matt, since we only have 15 minutes to do this, are you ready to dive right in? And then the frame is that you're going to ask them about 5 questions to understand more about how you can improve your offer, or about how you can really make the resource relevant for, let's say, triathletes or whoever it is that they are. And then you also let them know, I might just ask a few questions to dive deeper into your answers as well. Is that still cool? Get their consent. And then from there, you go into the market research questions. So the goal with these questions is you do want to get at least 3 questions related to the phases of discovery, where they're at, what they want, and why they're struggling to get there on their own. And then the other 2 questions, you can kind of pull some wild cards or temp checks. So here's some examples of questions that you can grab for each level. Just pick one from each that you think is going to be relevant for you. One of these questions that you really like. And then ask a clarification question after. So if you're like, hey, when it comes to distracted eating, what's the single biggest result you'd like to have? And then they're like, oh, well, I'd just like to stop doing it. Then it's like, okay, cool. Well, why do you feel like stopping distracted eating is important to you? And you want to dive down a little bit. You still want to have a little bit of that market research frame. And then you can pick some good temp checks. You can ask any questions that you like from the market research. If you are creating a resource, obviously pick the questions that will help you create it. And once you've done that and you're at about the maybe 12, 13, even 14-minute mark of the call, if it seems like they'd be a good fit, just let them know, hey, thanks for taking the time to answer those questions, Matt. And here, if you're creating a resource, be like, I'll be releasing that resource in the next 1 to 2 weeks based on the feedback I've gotten so far. Would you like me to reach out with a copy when it's done? They'll probably say yes. And then from there, that's where you might be able to make a pitch towards your sales call. So you can be like, cool. And, based on what we talked about today, I feel like it'd help you, lose that weight, if you feel it's appropriate, we could possibly hop on a longer call to dive into some of those issues you're facing with your weight loss to see if there's a possibility I might be able to help you. So do you think that would be appropriate? And they might say yes, they might say no. If they say no, all good. That's what triaging is about. If they're not interested, we don't want to get onto a sales call with them. So then if they're like, no, I'm all good, then be like, cool, well, I'll reach out to you with that resource when it's ready. Again, thanks for taking the time. But if they say yes, book them in. Now, if you are doing some research for your offer, here's how you can frame it up. So you can say, hey, thanks so much for taking the time to answer those questions, Matt. I've actually already talked to quite a few people after that post I put up and decided to move forward with updating my program to help, triathletes to perform better because there appears to be such a need for it. And based on what we talked about today, it sounds like I might be able to help you with, completing your first Olympic triathlon. If you feel it's appropriate, we could possibly hop on a longer call to dive into some of the issues you're facing with your training to see if there's a possibility I might be able to help you. Do you think that'd be appropriate? And then if so, book in the call. No need for them to apply, no need to send them a link. And then from there, you're going to send them some homework leading up to the call. And hey, if it's not a fit, if you get to the end of this, if it's not a fit, just be like, hey, thanks so much for taking the time to answer those questions, Matt. I'm going to have that resource done in the next 1 to 2 weeks. Would you like me to send it? They're like, yeah. Then send them the resource, nurture them, follow up if it's just that, now's not a good time. But if you feel like they're not somebody who you'd want to work with, just send them the resource. That's that. So that's the process we're going through on the script. And that is on the training. So if you have any questions about this, let Kate and I know. I think it's pretty straightforward, but that's because I created it. Much love, y'all.